seara! Urmărim o ediție specială, sunt Andra Miron Diaconescu. Vorbim despre Congresul Partidului Popular European, care a avut loc la București, 2 zile extrem de intense, de mare anvergură, cu peste 10 șefi de stat și de guvern care au venit aici, în capitala geopolitică a Uniunii Europene, pentru a vedea cum va arăta Uniunea Europeană mai departe și pentru a o propune pe Ursula von der Leyen, viitor candidat președinte al Comisiei Europene. Asta după ce s-a dat startul în weekend pentru cursa electorală pentru șefia Comisiei Europene de către socialiști, pe care i-am văzut adunați la Roma și vorbind despre egalitate și echitate pentru Europa. De data aceasta am văzut un mesaj mai mult orientat către economie și securitate.
Our children should be safe running free in fields and forests, on playgrounds and football pitches as we did. They deserve that we care for a healthy future with a healthy environment, whether they grow up in the biggest city or the smallest village.
We Social Democrats from all over Europe will never let you down. And as Mette has said this morning, as Olaf has repeated and many others, we have to do more. This is urgent, absolutely urgent.
Alături de mine astăzi colegii din rețeaua Euronews, Maeve Mehan, care este jurnalist Euronews la Bruxelles și care este realizatorul emisiunii Bruxelles My Love. Bruxelles je t'aime. Thank you very much for being here.
Pleasure to be with you again.
Again, thank you very much. Șandor Jiroș, care este de asemenea jurnalist la Euronews Bruxelles, și Monica Mihai, jurnalist Euronews la București. Thank you very much. Mulțumesc foarte mult, Monica.
Plăcere foarte mare să fim aici.
Thanks for the invitation.
I thank you. We'll go with Maeve because we've been together also at the Socialists when they presented their Spitzenkandidat. How do you see the difference between the two of the congresses?
The difference is absolutely huge. I feel here almost like I'm at a rock festival. I'm at like this massive event. Even the lighting here is a bit darker. You can sense that atmosphere as well of power. There is so much power here in the room because, of course, there's 12 heads of state and government now in power that represent the European People's Party. Maybe another one because, of course, there's elections this Sunday in Portugal. That's what they're saying today. So obviously they have more money, and you can see that in the grandioseness of this Congress. One thing that I appreciated more here at this Congress was the access we had as journalists, because at the Socialist Congress we were up a little bit far away from where the action was, and as reporters we need to be close to power, we need to ask the right questions, and here I feel we had a better opportunity to do that.
Pacea noastră, o Uniune Europeană unită, toate astea sunt puse la îndoială de populiști, naționaliști, demagogi, chiar dacă sunt din dreapta extremă sau stânga extremă.
Observăm agresiunea dictaturii lui Putin, creșterea extremismelor. Pare că suntem mânați de niște impulsuri egoiste sau naționaliste, dar chiar dacă Uniunea Europeană nu este perfectă, este cea care ne asigură un viitor împreună. Deci ne dorim să dăm dovadă de solidaritate și ne vom apăra Uniunea Europeană împotriva tuturor tendințelor naționaliste, extremiste de pe eșichierul politic. Acesta este mesajul meu. Luați aceste alegeri în serios, mergeți la vot, participați, votați împotriva extremismelor.
Da, amenințările în interior vin din partea populiștilor și extremiștilor și noi ne vom da toată silința ca tot ce scrie în manifest să fie împărtășit și cu cetățenii.
The far right is on the rise in almost all of our countries and throughout democracies around the world. Right-wing populists are running election campaigns against our united Europe and its core values.
The very soul of Europe is at risk. And once again, it is up to us, the Social Democrats to defeat that threat and ensure that history continues to advance in the right direction. We are the party of those Europeans who still believe that together we are stronger than separated. That the welfare state is the most effective tool to provide a good quality of life to everyone. That social justice and decent working conditions are not obstacles, but the sole possible foundations for a real economic competitiveness.
I believe that this time voters need to know that this is the most important European election since 1979. The stakes are high, and the alternatives, the choice is clear.
După atâtea crize suprapuse, pandemie, crize energetică, suntem totuși într-o criză majoră în urma atacului total incorect al Federației Ruse asupra Ucrainei și observ că toate familiile democratice încep să aibă un discurs comun în ceea ce privește viitorul și direcția europeană. Au existat foarte multe probleme economice la nivel european și e normal ca familiile în acest moment să se strângă și să găsească cele mai bune soluții.
Sandor, do you see that the message was as strong for the people who are voting at the Socialist, but at the European People's Party?
I honestly think that this result was a big disappointment for Ursula von der Leyen, because me personally, I was expecting that she will be nominated by more than 90% of the votes to be the Spitzenkandidat, to be the lead candidate of the European People's Party, and from the 800 delegates, she got only 400 votes. 89 people voted against her, and around 300 people just didn't show up. I was talking to delegates who told me that, okay, we are not going to vote against her, but we are also not going to vote for her because we don't really like her. They consider her as a bit too liberal to be a lead candidate for the European People's Party, and some of the people don't really like her policies towards Ukraine. And another surprise for me, so this is number one, it's not a good result for her, I think. I think it's really a bittersweet victory that she can be the lead candidate, but not with a super big support by her own party. Another surprising thing for me and this Congress was how strong the EPP is going against migration. In the manifesto, if you read it, they clearly say that, you know, the reception centers for the migrants should be outside of Europe, not inside of Europe. And this is really something new. This is so far was only said by the far-right parties, by the really radical parties. And now EPP, the center-right, is saying this also. It's a big shift. It's a big change for me.
Monica, te voi întreba în românește despre importanța pentru România, pentru București.
Cred că a fost un semnal puternic pe care l-am văzut din partea liderilor prezenți aici la Congresul Popularilor Europeni, însă rămânem la final cu ceea ce a spus Karl Nehammer. Încă nu suntem acolo, încă nu poate să accepte în totalitate aderarea României pe deplin la spațiul Schengen, pentru că noi cumva asta așteptam. Așteptam semnalul, având în vedere, dacă putem să le spunem așa, controverselor pe care le-am văzut ieri, în sensul că noi ieri dimineața aici la Congres aveam informația că partidul lui Karl Nehammer, OVP, va vota împotriva manifestului care urma să fie supus la vot undeva după amiază. Am vorbit cu europarlamentarul Karaș, care e un lider important în gruparea OVP, știm că este mai independent și care are o voce proprie de cele mai multe ori, care a declarat în exclusivitate ieri pentru Euronews România faptul că el va vota așa cum consideră, adică că va merge pe varianta în care... Și propria a rămas. Interesant a fost că la votul de aseară am fost puțin surprinși să vedem și să-l auzim pe Manfred Weber, care anunța un vot în unanimitate pentru manifest. De aici ne-am gândit, bineînțeles, că fie delegația austriacă nu a votat, nu a fost prezentă în sală, însă din ce am înțeles noi, au fost prezenți într-adevăr într-un număr mai mic în sală, dar totuși, iată, s-a votat pentru acest manifest, unde știm foarte clar există prevederea care spune că România și Bulgaria are sprijin total din partea popularilor europeni și din partea implicită a Ursulei von der Leyen. Leyen, pentru că este o asumare și a ei, fiind candidatul pentru Comisia Europeană. Deci este o prioritate a mandatului Ursulei von der Leyen în eventualitatea în care va trece de Parlament, ceea ce sunt șanse foarte mari să treacă de Parlamentul European. Dar cred că încă mai avem muncă de făcut și aici vorbesc de discuții diplomatice la nivelul cel mai înalt, pentru că astăzi am avut o discuție între președintele Klaus Iohannis și Karl Nehammer, însă am văzut rezultatul acestei discuții. Karl Nehammer nu a fost clintit din poziția pe care o are vis-a-vis de România.
Da, pe de altă parte ne uităm la modul în care Europa se schimbă cu totul. Planul Ursulei von der Leyen este unul cu totul nou pentru configurația Comisiei Europene și, bineînțeles, ne uităm la acest mesaj de unitate, care nu știm totuși cât de unitar va fi. And I'm going to switch to English.
We're understanding a little bit.
Yes. So I'm asking you how from Brussels, you specialist journalist in foreign affairs and Europe affairs, how do you see the reshaping of European Union, of the Commission in the plan of von der Leyen, now when Europe is at the crossroad? Maeve.
Well, I think that Europe needs to reconnect with the people. I mean, it's doing a really bad job at actually reaching out and going where the voters are, where real people are. When commissioners go to speak to people, it's always very staged, it's always very organized, it's always like never really just down where the people are. And I heard your head of state today say it's really important to connect with the people. And just to come on the back of what Shandor, my colleague, said as well, I was sitting right up at the front there when that announcement about Ursula von der Leyen was made, that she was endorsed as the candidate. And I had my phone ready to take a photograph and a video. I thought the room would like leap up with excitement, and they didn't. And I think what's interesting to point out is that there was a lot of men on the podium speaking today. There was very few women. And she's the first female president, in fact, of the European Commission. We have a female president of the Parliament as well. But I feel like she knows she has a lot of political enemies. And she's got enemies as well in France, she's enemies in Slovenia, and she's got a lot of enemies in her own party as well. A lot of men as well who don't like what she's doing, that she's too green, she's too technocratic, and she's too close as well to the French president, they believe. But back to the project of the future of Europe, I think many in Brussels feel like business as usual and the status quo is fine, that everything's going well, that they're doing their best. But I think that they really need to find a way to connect with the people, and people are on TikTok.
Monica, what do you think?
I was listening to Maeve, and what I think is very interesting right now is the pivot that we see in the European Union, because what we heard as speech level here at the Congress was the fact that the European Union is going to put a great deal on security. And if we look at the manifest, we see that they want a foreign minister of the European Union. They want a security council, which gives the European Union a completely different dimension, a security dimension that before we didn't have.
Agresia rusească a încercat să șteargă de pe hartă Ucraina. Am fost la Bucea. Nu voi uita niciodată părinții disperați care aveau copii răpiți de Rusia, lacrimile lor, fricile lor, agonia lor. Iar ca o mamă și bunică, inima mea plânge când aude aceste povești. Putin este urmărit pentru crime de război și se va fa în fața justiției și există un tribunal la Haga care îl așteaptă.
Avem încă o dată război pe teritoriul european. Federația Rusă a atacat Ucraina și a fost corect ca Uniunea Europeană să stea alături de poporul ucrainean. Noi îi vom sprijini în continuare. Austria este un stat neutru, dar neutralitatea nu înseamnă să nu ai o opinie, să nu ai o poziție. Războiul este o crimă și sancțiunile sunt necesare. Solidaritate și asistență pentru Ucraina este o datorie.
That the war in Ukraine, it's something like black and white. There's no doubts who is responsible, who is victim. Thanks God, Prime Minister Mitsotakis is not a victim here.
So we see Ursula von der Leyen switches from the Green Deal, that statement that she made in 2019, to a security of European Union and an armed European Union, which is, I think, very interesting, this switch that she's doing right now.
It is a very interesting switch. And if you remember back in 2019, back then we saw the Friday for Futures marchers out every Wednesday. Greta Thunberg was on the front of Times magazine. Now we don't have the Friday for Future marchers. The Green Deal is fading out. And we can see in this room today there was very little love for the Green Deal, with Antonio Tajani, the Italian foreign minister, saying we're pragmatic, we don't agree with Timmermans and his Green Deal, and switching to security, to defence, of course, with the ongoing war. So there's a real switch, in the ambience.
If I can just add something, I think in the last couple of months, the EPP realized that the whole of Europe is shifting to the right. There is a massive surge of the far right in the polls, and they realize if they are not going also to the right wing, then they will lose. And this is what we see here. They said that, okay, we are a farmers' party, we are now very critical towards the Green Deal, we are anti-immigration party. This is what we see, that the EPP is trying to listen to the people, and the people are telling them that, okay, we want a right-wing European Union, otherwise we will vote for the far right. And this is what we saw here, that is this huge political machine, what we call European People's Party, is getting to the right. And I'm not sure that von der Leyen is a good candidate for that project, because what we saw von der Leyen was doing in the last 5 years is crisis management, helping Ukraine, getting through the pandemics, getting this and this and this. But if you want to deliver right-wing politics, if you want to talk to the farmers, if you want to talk to the people on the streets here in Romania or in Hungary or in Germany or in France, do people care about von der Leyen? It's a big question.
Well, I did ask my taxi driver here, and by the way, everyone in Romania has been amazing. They've been incredible.
Yes,
but
that's
the taxi drivers did not know who Ursula von der Leyen was, and they told me we're not interested in politics, which I understand, because people don't feel close to what they feel is the political elite.
I think it's a pragmatic calculus of the PP. Looking at the numbers, if you look at the numbers of the configuration of the European Parliament, every data shows that the far right will have much more space in the future legislative. So I think it was a pragmatic calculus that they have to switch their policies, so they would lower the room for the extremists.
It's tricky though, because they have to be careful, because they have to still adhere to European values and European treaties, and we have an obligation as the European Union to respect fundamental freedoms and human rights. And often, if you look at some of the issues that Sándor mentioned earlier, I mean, will it be exactly very legal, some of these matters, the way they handle them?
They will make it legal.
Because they will have the power.
We jump with my final question. How will these elections look like? What do you expect?
Well, go ahead.
We will see a more right-wing European Parliament, that's for sure. In what extent, ECR and ID group, they will change their ranks. We don't know. What I hear more and more, that the most difficult scenario will be not that it will be a completely right-wing European Parliament, but the most difficult scenario could be if we will have a dysfunctional European Parliament, a very fragmented European Parliament where it will be impossible to have a majority for the next European Commission. That is the horroristic scenario. But we have still almost 100 days until the elections, plenty of time, plenty of things can happen, so we will see in the future how it will look.
And we will report on all the intrigue on Euronews. I mean, I think it's worth pointing out that these are not really European elections, they're national elections. We have 27 different national elections. So the main thing is that people go and vote and get engaged, even though in many countries people feel very distant to members of the European Parliament. They don't actually realise that they're co-legislators since the Treaty of Lisbon. They can have a major impact on issues that affect your life, and of course also on foreign affairs. We've spoken a lot about the far right, but also the far left. For example, in my home country, in Ireland, they're projected to do the best out of all the MEPs, and it's something that I asked the Irish Prime Minister today, the Irish Taoiseach, Leo Varadkar. I asked him at the Congress how he felt about that. And obviously he gave a very diplomatic answer and said he wasn't concerned that his Fine Gael EPP MEPs were the right people, but that would be very interesting to see what happens there.
I think in Romania we're going to have a bigger presence than we had at the last elections, because if we look at all the numbers, at the last election for European Parliament we had close to 50. The interesting thing in Romania that's going to be that we have local elections, so I think the European message will be lost in this local election, so maybe we will have to be a little bit careful to make the European message heard, because it is really important to send the right people in the European Parliament, because this is what we have to understand, that we can decide the policies that are made at Strasbourg regarding the people that we send there. So I think people have to come out and vote. This is the main thing.
Cum îi vezi capacita pe români să vină la vot?
Trebuie să vii la vot. Nu poți. E un drept pentru care ne-am luptat mult prea mult și l-am așteptat mult prea mult să avem acest drept democratic de a vota la Revoluție, ca să nu venim. De aceea, această comasare, de fapt, aduce un plus de oameni la vot. Fiindcă cel mai mare interes este când îți alegi gospodarul urbei. Și atunci va fi un vot mult mai mare și pentru alegerile europarlamentare.
Chandra and I, we report from Brussels, we report from Strasbourg. There's a lot of lazy MEPs who shout the loudest maybe, but they don't do any work. They do not do any work. Yeah. So really try and vote for a hard-working MEP, somebody who's going to actually really work on legislation and make your life better.
And who understands the procedures there, because there are a lot of procedures that people that go there, the MPs, have to understand how the parliament works actually. And this is what they said in Romania as well, that if you send somebody that doesn't understand how things work there, and that you have to pass a legislate that everybody will agree, or most of the MPs will agree, then you can't.
Well, they will learn on the job as well. I mean, it's a bit like going to university. Like the first week when all the MEPs come, they're like in campus.
Yes.
They have full access to staff, to training, to language courses, every help they need on the A to Z of European politics. So just choose somebody who's inspiring, who's hardworking, and not necessarily the one shouting the loudest in the room or on social media.
But some of the current Romanian MEPs are doing a really great job without mentioning names. I mean, some work on artificial intelligence, some work on, you know, other legislation, and they have the full knowledge, and they are very influential, and they are being heard, and they are delivering the message in Brussels. So I think, I mean, really there are some personalities in Romania who are capable of influencing European policies, and they are doing a good job in Brussels.
Like the AI rapporteur, no?
Yes, yes.
And also Vlad Georg, one of our regulars on Brussels, my love.
Also, these are two liberals, but also on the EPP there are Mureșan. We talked to him. He's a very influential figure. So I would
we weren't supposed to name, but we're naming.
Yeah, but
this is what I was saying. Why not? It's Euronews. So
it's Euronews.
I think we're going to have overall a very exciting year ahead of us.
That's right.
Well, I will jump to a conclusion, and I will say it in Romanian, but I want to talk about the red couch, which will transform at Euronews in the white couch. We'll put a white blanket on it because we are impartial, we are all views, and we will go with it in deep Romania and ask about what is important for the people to deliver the European Parliament. And although it is like a big gap between that big bureaucratic institution and people in their own houses, well, we need to narrow that gap, and the politicians are the ones who need to answer to the citizens. Ceea ce va face Euronews România în timpul campaniei electorale, înainte de campania electorală, va fi să mergem cu canapeaua roșie, deja ați văzut-o în precedentele noastre emisiuni, care va deveni canapeaua albă, pentru că îi vom pune un cearșaf, pentru că suntem imparțiali, suntem neutri. Euronews este all views, arată toate punctele de vedere, dar se menține obiectiv și neutru. Și vom merge în România reală, România oamenilor de rând, și vom întreba ce își doresc de la acești europarlamentari, ce își doresc de la Parlamentul European, ce vor să facă Europa pentru ei, așa încât să ducă o viață mai bună. După care, europarlamentarii, viitorii europarlamentari, politicienii din campanie vor trebui să răspundă la aceste nevoi ale oamenilor. Rămâneți alături de Euronews. Le mulțumesc foarte mult colegilor mei pentru că au reușit să dea perspectiva în această seară. Și vă mulțumesc și dumneavoastră, doamnelor și domnilor, pentru că ne-ați urmărit. Sunt Andra Miron Diaconescu, numai bine!